Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on November the 8th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, as usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar here. So in terms of our data here, we saw a big fluctuation in our Bank of England here, and the big difference really was the voting here. As we can see here, they didn't change anything except for the MPC votes. So in terms of the format here, so they have 0 to 7, the expectation was 009. Basically what they were saying was that 9 of them would, everybody, essentially all the voting members would vote to keep the rates on hold. But what we saw instead, so if you look at the format here, XXX, which is our 009, the first number is how many MPC members voted to increase interest rate. So nobody voted to increase interest rate because we are not expecting that at this point. Market is not doing well enough for to warrant interest rate hikes. The second one is how many voted to decrease rates, and this is where British pound got hammered. Two MPC members voted to cut interest rates, and anytime there's a talk about cutting interest rates, that's bad or negative for the currency, and that's where we saw our British pound drop. So this was the main difference there. Market was expecting everything to be held the way it is, but it turns out 2 of the members have now turned dovish and they want to see interest rate cuts. So this is kind of similar to Bank of Canada, where they actually discussed cutting interest rates, and just that those comments were negative for the currency. Similar thing here. We saw that because 2 members voted to cut rate, that's negative for the currency. So we saw a British pound drop. Other than that, everything was sort of, nothing really had much of an impact. Another big thing overall that was outside of these news events was our US and China trade relationship. We saw that we heard comments came out, first of all, out of first China was announcing that they are looking to remove tariffs. So both US and China would remove tariffs. So first US had put tariffs, and then China had retaliated with their own tariffs. So both sides would cut tariffs. So that was the first news that came out early in the London or the European session there, and this is where price took off. So we'll take a look at that. But other than that, later in the day in the New York session, we saw comments come out of the US as well, saying that they would be cutting tariffs. So this is where the whole shift in the market happened, because prior to that, the comments that were coming out were that they were not, that the meeting was delayed between US and China. They had pushed it out to December, and they were still hammering out the details of the agreement, which was not so positive because everybody was expecting, it was supposed to happen last month, and now we are into November. It still hasn't happened, so it got postponed into December. But the comments when both US and China said that they're going to cut the tariffs or remove the tariffs, that was a positive for the equity markets. So equity markets went up, safe haven assets dropped. So that's what happened besides the news events. So coming up shortly here, we have monetary policy statement out of Australia. So we have seen 2 banks shift their stance now, Bank of England and Bank of Canada. Now, Reserve Bank of Australia already did an interest rate cut. So right now, we're not expecting for any more cuts. But if their commentary changes, or if they throw out a comment like this, where they are looking at further interest rate cuts or they're discussing it, anything like that will have a negative impact on Australian dollar. But if you do not see any of that language, if they are okay with the way things are going, and that's what their comments are focused around, those will be positive for Australian dollar. So we'll see how that plays out. Other than that, we have trade balance numbers coming out here shortly. Or in the Asian session here. So the trade balance numbers, if they are below expectations, that is negative for New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar. So keep an eye on those two currencies. So let's take a look at what's coming up on Friday here. Not a ton of important stuff in the European session. We have employment numbers out of Canada. So with Bank of Canada turning dovish here, if the numbers are below expectations, we are likely to see Canadian dollar drop as a result of that. So we need to keep an eye on these ones. We also have consumer sentiment numbers out of the US. If they are below expectations, that will be negative for US dollar, and we can see US dollar actually drop as a result. Other than that, just wholesale inventories, but we are likely to see a fairly quiet trading day besides that. So when we have a quiet trading day in regards to events, the comments that come out, so if we hear any more comments that are positive, especially are actually positive or negative, that will have an impact on the market. So we are likely to see impact from that. So we have to keep an eye on the comments. But other than that, that's it for the news. Let's go on to our charts now. All right, so we'll start off with our euro dollar. Yesterday, we were looking for euro dollar to drop. We saw that we pulled back right into the high of yesterday's candle, and now we have a nice bearish candle close here, bearish engulfing candle. So bias is to the downside, still bearish bias here. In terms of our pullback, I would look for a potential pullback into 1.1065 and then looking for a drop. First target is 1.1020. Second target is 1.100. So bearish bias here for euro dollar. Pound dollar here, we saw a big fluctuation here, but it did a nice pullback into 1.2880 and then a nice drop. We are into support, so just be mindful of that. But bias is bearish. We could get a pullback into 1.2840 potentially, but overall bias is bearish. We have a lower high here. So now looking for price to drop. First target is 1.2720, and then second target is 1.2650. So bearish bias here for pound dollar. Aussie dollar here, this one did initially go through our support level here, but Australian dollar does well when the equity markets go up. So especially China, that Chinese news that US and China are getting close to an agreement, that is positive, especially them removing tariffs, because when China does well with Australia and New Zealand being big trade partners with China, these two currencies do well as well. So this is where we saw Australian dollar go up as a result. It was dropping nicely and then it went back up. So we got a close that's higher. So we're back into this range here. Today's candle close here is actually neutral here. We have pins on both sides and there is bullishness in the candle. What I would look for here would be a further move towards the high of the range here. The thing to pay attention to here would be the high of today's candle. So if price goes into the high but doesn't get through, it can turn around, because right now US dollar is actually strong. So we could see price retest the high here at 0.6913 level here and then drop from there. So if that happens, if it stays below this level, then we're likely to see a drop. However, if it goes through, I'm looking for price to go all the way into the high at 0.6920. And then it could even go higher if it breaks that level. I will look for the next at 0.6950. But for now, price has been trading in this range for several days. So we'll see what the reaction is here. But the bias right now is neutral. So should we see price go through 0.6880, then we are looking for the next target down at 0.6850. So right now, this is neutral. So 2 back-to-back neutral days for Australian dollar. New Zealand dollar here, this one is completely neutral here. We have pins on both sides, price opened and closed at exactly the same point here. At this point, it looks like price is holding above here. So it retested this 0.6350, it's holding above. If it breaks through today's high here, so this is where price has been stuck for the last couple of days here, but if it breaks this 0.6387 level, then chances are it can go all the way into the high. So we just need to look at this or pay attention to the high here. If it doesn't break though, then we are likely to see a drop. So this is the thing with neutral candles, the price can go in either direction. So we are looking to see a break either above the high, or we're looking for a break below the low, and that will dictate where the market wants to go. So for now, bias is neutral, and a break above the high, a break above the high is likely to take the price all the way into 64.50. Should it break through the low, we're looking at 63.20 and then 62.80 as targets. Dollar CAD here, this one is still trading in a range. We do have a neutral candle, but it's holding here below this previous support resistance level. So we could see price drop towards 1.3140. So keep that in mind. Do watch out for a bit of a pullback before the drop. So right now we have a neutral to slightly bearish bias here for dollar CAD. Let's take a look at commodities here. We had talked about if price doesn't really hold above yesterday's high, could drop. So we had a big drop. A lot of this was triggered by the news about US and China dropping tariffs. So overall, we have a big bearish candle close here. So bias is bearish. I would look for a bit of a pullback here, potentially into 17.20 level, and then a drop. First target is 16.80. And then we're looking at 16.60. Now, there were comments in regards to US. So there were some comments saying that President Trump announcing that US is going to drop tariffs caused some internal issues, so internal strife. And if we keep hearing comments like that, it could prove to be negative for equity markets and positive for safe haven assets, but keep that in mind. So, however, overall, this is looking bearish. So looking for a pullback into 17.20 and then a drop. First target 16.80, 16.60 is the second target for silver here. Looking at gold, same thing here. Price was not able to break the day's high, and it has finally broken through this support level. But we are very close actually in both silver and gold. We are very close to this support level where price turned previously. So keep those levels in mind, because if price does not break through those levels, we could see a move back up. But for now, bias is bearish, and next target here is next target is 14.57, and then actually 14.59, and then we are looking at 14.48 and potentially 14.36. So bias is bearish for gold as well. Oil here, oil is still trading in this range. It hasn't really done much, just gone back and forth here for the last 4 days here. So bias is neutral at this point. It wasn't able to break the support level, so it's gone back up. So it's neutral. We do have bullishness in this candle, but there's also a large pin on the top. So neutral bias for oil. I would look for this one to trade towards 56.10. And trade towards the high of 57.80. So basically looking for a move back into this range here. Copper looking bullish. This one got turned around as well. So this is all because of the US-China announcement, because again, China buys a lot of stuff from commodities, actually from Australia. So copper being one of those. With the tariffs being removed, this is a positive news because if Chinese economy does better, then Australia is able to ship more copper. So this turned bullish here. So we do have a bullish bias, but as we can see, price is into resistance. So if it doesn't break above today's high, we could see price come back into this range. So we just have to be careful with our trading tomorrow, because things could unwind. So all that optimism that came into the market because of the US and China both announcing the removal of tariffs could wane, and we could see price come back down. But if positive comments continue to come out, it could then take it to the next level as well. So we just have to be mindful here. Right now, things are basically all over the place, so just keep it in mind. So bullish bias here, but we have to wait for the price to break the high. If it does that, next target here is 2.70. So bullish bias here for copper. Bitcoin here still slowly making its way to towards the bottom of this range. It is still trading in this range here. So right now, bias is bearish, looking for a drop towards 89.60, which is the bottom of this range. That's the first target. Second target is 8700. So bearish bias here for Bitcoin. And with Bitcoin here, because we are coming towards the bottom of the range, if price doesn't break through the support, this one could go back up as well. So watch out for that. But bias is bearish, 89.60 first target, and 8700 is the second target. And then we have S&P 500. S&P 500 had that push to the upside here because of the, so we have, as we can see, similar move here in the yen crosses as well as the equity markets, and they are positively correlated. Yen and equities are negatively correlated, which means that yen crosses go up when the equity markets go up, and because safe haven assets drop. So we have this inefficient move which could get filled. So be careful with getting overly bullish with this stuff, because these moves are very flaky and they can just go in either direction. So right now it is bullish bias, but as we can see, price is struggling with the high. So if it doesn't hold above the high, it can come back down towards the bottom of this range. So it's been trading in this range for this entire week. Since Monday, price has been trading in this range, and it could come back towards this bottom here, 3060. So for now, bias is bullish only if it holds above today's high. If it is able to hold above today's high, then this one could continue higher. But right now, it is really struggling with the high. So if it doesn't break through the high, that's what we are looking for. So bias is bullish, but with caution here for S&P 500. Nasdaq, same thing here. So we see price is struggling with the high here. This is where price has turned before. This is exactly where price is at this moment. So if positive comments come out, this one could go higher. So we need to see price go through the high for it to continue higher. Bias is neutral for this one because we have pins on both sides of this candle. I would look for price to move towards 81.40 here. So bias is neutral for Nasdaq. Dow Jones, a big move to the upside here. It went right into that target. So bias is bullish here. Again, watch out for reversals, which tend to happen. But the next target here is 27,800 for Nasdaq. Markets at all-time highs. So I would be careful being too bullish especially when the market's at all-time highs. Just be cautious, because this is how the bubbles tend to burst when people think it's just going to go up and up and up. And this is when things kind of go sideways. So just be mindful of that. It is bullish bias for now, but if it doesn't break today's high, I will look for it to fill in that inefficient move. So if you take a look at it, there are two inefficient moves here, and we could see price fill those moves. However, if we see price pull back into this level here, 27,590, so 600, and holds above this level, then this one could go up further. So bias is bullish for now, just with caution. And then DAX here, as we can see, a further move to the upside. It went right into our second target here of 13,300. And this one, if we zoom out here, next target is at 13,400. And then we're looking at 13,420. So bias is bullish for DAX. Again, with caution, but bullish bias here. And then looking at our FTSE here, FTSE has a pin bar. So we are into resistance here. So this one is actually bearish. We are into resistance. So watch out for a pullback, but price could turn around here. I will look for a drop in price. Target here would be 73.50 for FTSE. Last but not least is our Nikkei. As we can see, it blasted right through the high of yesterday's candle, but the way the price is moving, it looks very volatile. So I will be careful. Bias is bullish though, but with extreme caution here, like I said. Next target here will be, if it holds above today's high, the next target is 23,800. So bullish bias here for Nikkei. So that's it for today, and we will wrap it up here. Have a great trading day, and I'll see you on the weekend. Bye for now.